Of things. My motto really is I'm infinitely optimistic about the potential of people. I've just seen ordinary people do extraordinary things. And that includes me, that includes everybody listening to this podcast, anybody that will read my book is capable of accomplishing anything that they want to in their life.
Hello, everybody, and welcome, welcome. It is your favorite time of the week. It is Leaders Talk time, and as usual, I am your intrepid host, Andrew Dupy, Chief Relationship Officer here at Leaders Press. And today I have a very exciting and excitable guest with me, Cory Sanford. He's already laughing because he knows it's true. I'm going to introduce you here to Cory. He's got a fantastic CV. Cory has dedicated 15 years to building and inspiring workplace cultures that drive results for companies and achieve inspiring purposes. So he's had a great deal of leadership at Guidance Financial. It was pivotal in his transformation into a fully remote global organization. And it earned the title of #1 best place to work in Idaho in 2023. That's not the first company he's done that with. That was the second company that he helped actually achieve those goals. He's a graduate, now an instructor at Cornell University. Cory's had a lifelong passion for education. He holds multiple certifications that showcase his profound human resources expertise, and he's the Chief Excitement Officer. Told you we're going to talk about excitement of 3, and that's THREE 60 Consulting LLC. He aids organizations in the fulfilling journey of becoming companies where people can be at their best, feel their best, and do their best. And this message, along with his sense of humor, captivating storytelling, is taking him in front of many global audiences. And he has a motto: I am infinitely optimistic about the potential of people. And it shows in his life's work of fostering meaningful people, meaningful work environments. And meeting Cory today, we're going to learn about him, and we're going to learn about how much he loves people and how much he loves sweaters. And finally, if that wasn't enough, Cory is now bringing all of those life experiences to audiences with Are You Kidding Me? From Leaders Press, and fulfilling what I assume is his greatest lifelong ambition by appearing today on Leaders Talk. Cory, that's a lot.
I'm laughing already. Love the energy. I'm very excited to be here. It's fun to hear that in rapid succession. Yes, I'm laughing, and yes, I'm wearing a sweater, and yes, I'm looking forward to our discussion.
Well, I figured if we were going to bring excitement to the table, I had to bring my own level of excitement to the table.
Nailed it.
Tell us a little bit about you that didn't cover.
Yeah, I love that you mentioned a couple of things. My motto really is I'm infinitely optimistic about the potential of people. I've just seen ordinary people do extraordinary things. And that includes me, that includes everybody listening to this podcast, anybody that will read my book is capable of accomplishing anything that they want to in their life. And so especially in the workplace, where I do believe leaders and companies have a responsibility to create inspiring places where people come to the workplace to gain energy. That's what I'm trying to create. And that's the legacy I'm trying to leave is people come to work today mostly draining energy. They're driving home exhausted or frustrated, and then they can't be their best parent or partner or disc golfer or gardener or whatever hobbies there are. And I'm committed to helping organizations create places where the opposite is true, where people are coming and through collaboration, through connection, through purpose, through meaningful work, that they are gaining energy, that they now drive home excited to then be the best parent, partner, disc golfer, gardener, whatever it is that you're interested in personal lives outside of work. And so, my book entails a lot of those experiences I've had, and a lot of the simple frameworks that I've discovered that are practical, simple, easy, and so excited to talk more about it.
Wonderful. We will talk about those. But I love your approach from the very beginning here, because I come from, previously I've been a teacher for a long time, but I also have come from corporate business, in an office, in a cubicle environment. And in those situations, you always look at this thing. When you hear HR, you think of the stuffy, detached person that isn't really involved in much of anything, is always looking over your shoulder, and is either the one that you talk to when you have a problem or you're going to get fired.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Sometimes
and
both.
So yeah, that's the kind of the negative connotation that comes with HR. So how have you approached changing that kind of impression?
Absolutely. So actually literally the first chapter in my book is called The Role of HR. And I talk a lot about that. I talk about how in the past, human resources as a function has focused primarily on administrative and short-term elements.
Mm.
And as we've evolved from sort of the personnel department, we've become human resources. So we've gotten a little more strategic, a little bit longer term. It's my vision and a vision of a lot of people that work in the space that we sort of graduate and evolve into more culture or people focused, where that's long-term strategic elements where we're engaged in creating and shaping and being stewards of great positive cultures, and we're shaping all the positive aspects of the work experience, not just the negative. And we get beyond sort of the administrative functions. Of course, we still need to do paperwork and there's still laws we need to follow. In addition to that, though, that administrative work, that we're getting more and more strategic and thinking about the business from long term. And so the ways to do that are through relationships and through education and experience, and really maximizing individual contributions through personal development and through culture of the entire organization, all aligned to establish long-term inspiring goals that we're all aligned to, completing together.
Yeah, in that togetherness. I mean, then you get into the idea of teamwork. Team. We hear that all the time on this podcast, that building a team, building something internally is so integral to being able to take a business and actually get it to the level that you want to get it to. So how do you begin to integrate team building and HR together so that it becomes a holistic approach?
Yeah, so a couple of things that I'll just say about that. First is there have been really successful companies that have had cultures that haven't been a good fit for some people. I also know companies that have had amazing cultures that have gone out of business. and so striking the right balance of aligning all of the organization together towards a common purpose, common goals is really, really important. And teamwork is one of the ways to do that. The way that I start is, I believe, and there's a lot of research that supports this, that the most important relationship at work is someone's direct supervisor. In fact, there are studies that are connecting the direct supervisor has as much impact on someone's mental health as their partner. So I say, when we step into leadership, we're stepping into sacred ground. And that's a really special place for us to be as leaders. And we now have a responsibility to look out for that individual. And so we focus on that relationship, that we have effective one-on-ones. We have effective team meetings. We train our leaders regularly on how to conduct effective one-on-ones, how to conduct effective team meetings, and how we cascade ambitious goals of the organization down to the individual level, so they can see how their contributions and the team's contributions are driving important business results and impacting the purpose of our business and impacting our clients and making them happy and seeing them successful. At Guided Financial, we focus on the success of entrepreneurs and small business leaders. And so when we're achieving our goals, we're helping more people be successful in small business. And so when we think about teamwork, connecting them all together through that important relationship of their direct supervisor and connecting all of that work and effort to strategic goals at their level where they can see the impact and the purpose being fulfilled are some powerful ways that we're sort of driving that culture and that teamwork towards the alignment of business outcomes.
Do you have any story? I mean, dip into your hat of of experiences. I'm sure that you've had many challenges over the course of your time doing this. Anything that can kind of make it a little real for the audience, and from a storytelling perspective.
Yeah, let me see if I can think of some good stories. First of all, there's a lot of stories about how to do it wrong. There's a lot of examples out there of, and that's a lot of what I try to tackle. Right? I know that there's still a lot of sort of command and control sort of leaders, and there are some leaders that are trying hard to be really friendly and accommodating, and sort of that pendulum swings the other direction. Man, I'm trying to think of some compelling stories Andrew. I'm not coming.
Oh well,
I'm
no,
not.
that's completely fine. And in fact, what I really kind of am interested in pivoting to here, just to discuss it, we talk a lot about remote, and
Yes.
that can actually answer my previous question.
Sure.
How are you being able to do this and transfer this from that kind of stuffy office environment to this new world that we have that is absolutely just bursting at the seams of remote work?
Yeah. So I'll give you a little bit of a history about guidance. So in 2019, we opened an office in Boise, Idaho. We were headquartered in the Seattle, Washington area. And we were opening an office in Boise, Idaho. We wanted to find
Mhm.
talent in a place that had, a better cost of living and a better work experience. And as soon as we opened up 2 offices, we were very excited about that and replicating the culture that was here. It was a great culture. Even a lot of people moved. I'd say like 8 people moved from the Seattle, Washington area to Boise to sort of create this consistency. And what we found was there was a very big difference. There was a lot of they have cubicles, and then they would say, well,
Mhm.
those guys have stand-up desks, and how come they have backpacks, and how come they get bus passes? And it was really difficult to create a really consistent experience. And there was always discussions about who gets to decide the temperature and the radio station, and whose turn is it to do this stinking dishes. And so we sort of recognized in 2019, like, hey, flexible work, remote work is the wave of the future. Let's start getting some fundamentals into place where we can start offering more of that, because even the Boise, Idaho area was becoming even more expensive and more competitive. And so, yeah, 2020 hit. COVID sort of forced a lot of folks to think
Yeah.
differently about it, but we had a 6-month runway because
Mhm.
we had the experiences of the 2 offices and trying really, really hard to create alignment and consistency. We just realized that when we had multiple offices and we had someone in Seattle, someone in Boise, someone that was remote, the experience there was so inconsistent that we were looking for more consistency, and remote work was one of those solutions. So in March 2020, we 4 years ago, we went fully and permanently remote. And what I would say that's practical for the listeners here is, as we went fully remote, we knew that we needed to go into that with some principles in mind and be thoughtful about how we measured and thought about culture. A lot of culture definitions out there are vague. They're good.
Mhm.
They're vague and hard to take action on. And so we realized that we define culture is connection. And that's connection to the purpose of the organization and the clients, the leaders of the organization, the values of the organization, and especially senior leaders and our direct supervisor, and then to each other. And so on a quarterly basis, we measure the team on how connected they feel to each of those categories. And then we can act to say, hey, we need to create more connection to our clients, and here's some ways we can do that. Or, hey, they're becoming disconnected to the direction that we're headed. We need to better communicate our vision, or they're not as connected to each other. How do we improve team meetings or create other events that people can attend where they can create a level of connection? And so we did a number of things
Mhm.
to create connection in each of those areas. And we even provided a menu. We knew that not everybody was going to be interested in the same level of connection. You're going to have your extra. It's funny, when I sort of present this to people, I say, where are all the extroverts? And the extroverts will raise their hand. And I've learned to stop asking for introverts to raise their hand. I just say, look around the room. Look around the room. The rest are introverts. And that's great. Wherever you are, you're going to have a different interest in connecting at work. And so by creating a menu, some of the elements and activities are required. Others are optional. And we ask people to own their connection and culture experience by opting into those that they're going to find value in. And so things like we have a committee that's a growth committee, and they provide discussions on, hey, learn more about this department, or learn more about Microsoft Excel skills. And people can opt into those sort of discussions and conversations or additional training. And some people can sit those out. We also have a couple of channels in Microsoft Teams where people can give peer-to-peer recognition. We created literally a break room in our Microsoft Teams channel, where, just like a regular break room, you can share recipes, you can talk about vacations, you can, even debate who's going to win the Super Bowl. Those are just a couple of ideas that, as we went fully remote, we were intentional that culture is connection to those 3 items: purpose, leaders, each other. We measure that on a regular basis, and we try to create a menu of options for people to opt into that.
And I love that because I also work remote. I mean, I'm in a company. We use WhatsApp, not Teams, but hey, it's six of one, half a dozen of the other.
Sure thing.
But I love that you're being able to bring the positive work environment to the remote space because I feel like that's one of the things that many companies are hesitant to move remote on because they feel like the communication breaks down, the camaraderie breaks down. You can't just go down the hallway and hey, Bob, I got a problem. Those things stop when everybody is spread out. So do you feel that is integral? What you're doing right now is integral to being able to overcome those problems?
100%. And in addition, going back to the consistency piece, when we were doing when we were in more of a hybrid sort of style, we genuinely recognized that there was very different experiences depending on where you sat. And going fully remote has leveled the playing field for everybody. So everybody's invited to the meetings that they need to be invited to. People are getting left off of meetings. We all have the same technology. We all have access to the same equipment. So we can now have a more consistent experience. And people now know that if they wanted to talk to Cory, I'm just a Teams message away or a WhatsApp message away, whatever your mode of communication is. We are all now, the leadership is a lot more accessible even because we now have this sort of setup. So I think it's resolved a lot of our issues, and I haven't had to have a conversation about dishes in 4 years, and that makes me very happy.
Well, yeah, I'm sure we all appreciate that. So see, you are a storyteller. Just take the right question from the pro.
Well, I do have lots of stories, and I love to share them. Sure.
Hey, that's the next thing I was actually want to talk about. It's like, so you have all these stories, you have everything in you, you have your expertise. What made you decide to start putting this down in a book?
First of all, I love to read. I'm a voracious reader, and I know I'm supposed to tell people that I'm an expert in certain things. Here's the real secret, though. I consider myself a student that loves to share what he's learned. And I just happen to have consumed a lot of books and podcasts and personal experiences. And now the reason I wanted to write a book is it just felt like a gift to the world, where I thought, hey, I've learned a lot about 2 different companies and how to create #1 best places to work award-winning honors for these companies. I've learned a lot about how to cut through the noise that's out there for leadership and human resources. And I have a lot of wisdom, I think, to share to make things really simple, really practical, really easy, really impactful. And I just felt this excitement around a responsibility I felt to share that with people that are in those roles that might be struggling with where to get good information or where to start if they want to make a shift, or how to approach difficult leadership topics like delegation or how to build a leader. And so starting to write the book was really fulfilling for me because it allowed me to get a lot of those stories on paper, and that continued to energize me. And as I shared that content with others, they really appreciated that and found value in that. And so I hope that others will be able to see some of the wisdom and experiences that I bring to the table and the funny stories that I use to tell them. And they'll have some practical and successful experiences of trying some new things, mostly by doing less, doing fewer things better. I like to say less better. And so my book is a way to do less better and get a lot of value out of having high leverage activities. And so a book was a good way to do that as sort of the best business card I could create to keep spreading my message of the workplace and the ambition and vision I have to have inspiring workplaces that bring energy to people.
Well, you and me both, buddy. I tell you, that Cory, we are kindred spirits in that. And and this is actually the thing that I love about being able to write a book or share your experiences on platforms like this is the ability to pick your brain. I mean, I'm going to steal that whole, I'm just a student that likes to teach what I've learned. That's going to be in my pocket now. Because, man, literally, that's how I feel as a person who was a teacher for many years, as our audience, I'm sure, knows, as they, make sure to tune in every single week to listen to us and like and subscribe. But yeah, that's just a really fascinating way to approach that is to be able to tell your story. So you didn't feel any nervousness, you didn't feel any concern, because that's one of the things that people always say when they're about to write a book. It's like, I felt like there was something that hold me back. Why should I tell the story? That wasn't something that was a problem for you?
Yeah, 100%. Let me answer that a couple of ways. First, I'll show you. Here are the books that are on my desk right now. Now the listeners can't see this, but look at how I read books. There's a special relationship that you can have with holding a book and reading a book, or even an ebook, making your own notes and thinking about things. And so I've got lots, and these are experts in their field. And so every time I read a book, I'm excited, and I also get imposter syndrome. And as I was writing my book, yes, everybody will experience those feelings of imposter syndrome. I've done a few things, I think, to help overcome that. To answer your question simply, though, of course, I question myself a lot. Am I really the right person to share this? Is now really the right time? Are people really going to listen to me? And I mean, if you're interested, I'd be happy to share a couple of things that work for me to kind of address
Absolutely, yeah.
and think about imposter syndrome. First
Yeah.
of all, it's real. And it's funny, when I was accepted into Cornell University's Executive Masters of Human Resource Management program, there was about 40 of us, and all 40 of us felt imposter syndrome. It's like, how could that be? Well, we all are sort of gaining in perspective and trying to understand our place in the world. So as I was writing the book, I still have those feelings. My book is going to be released soon. It'll be released on March 26th. And I still have feelings of imposter syndrome. So here's a couple things that work for me. First is, I just have this mantra that I belong. I belong. And I tell myself that I belong here. I belong. And I have something to offer. And sort of that mindset and a little bit of a mantra just helps kind of get me into the right headspace. The other thing I've realized, at least for me, I like to say my antidote to trepidation is preparation.
Okay.
So even being on your podcast, Andrew, I've listened to a number of your podcasts. I'm a big fan. And so even to be on this podcast, I was nervous. And so the best thing that I could do was tell myself that I belong and to prepare for the questions the best I could and enjoy the experience. The third thing I do is I shift what success looks like for me. So it used to be like, when I get into a situation, my success metric was like, everybody has to like me. I have to be funny. I have to, right? And everybody and everything. And I had this unrealistic expectation. Now, like for my book, for example, is if I can make an impact to a handful of people,
yeah,
or if I am at a social event that I'm nervous about, if I can make a connection with one person or meet one person new versus making this massive splash, I sort of shift what success looks like when I do something that I might have imposter syndrome about. And then the last thing I'll say that I've really learned in testing remote work things, we did some things that did not work. I'll tell you that. And we've tested some things in culture that did not work. They were disasters. But I've learned to consider life and consider new ventures as a grand experiment, and to just embrace it and just to do it, and to consider the learning. I posted something on LinkedIn a few weeks ago, and somebody vehemently disagreed with me. And a prior version of Cory would have been really upset by that. The current version of Cory that's now written a book and is pushing himself past imposter syndrome is someone that goes, that's awesome that there was a venue for us to have a respectful disagreement. And now I learned his perspective. I now have more content that I could share down the road about somebody who disagreed or offered a new perspective. And so that actually can create more dialogue and more content and more strength to the message that I bring. So those are a handful of things that when I think about imposter syndrome that have really helped me to overcome that, especially in writing the book and seeing that it's getting published.
And I can tell you right now, the response to it's been great. It's definitely on my list to read just from interacting with you, because I can see exactly where you're coming from. You have that teacher's mindset that I had when I was a teacher, and that is making the effect and making the impact on just one person to begin to have that build and grow. Because that's just it. You really only have to get a few people that really buy in, rather than a whole bunch that buy in for 5 minutes and then forget that you were in the room with each other. I mean, do you feel that's where your strength is in that situation?
Yes, I think that well said. You said that really, really well. And I think reshaping that is really, really important. And I'll actually go back really briefly to just our experiment into remote work. We knew that
Sure, yeah.
yeah, one of our principles that we realized is remote work is not going to be for everybody. And we're probably going to lose people that really needed or wanted a different kind of experience. And we accepted that. At the same time, we did a great experiment. I was really nervous about this. We did an all-day connection event. Like we would have done if we were in the office, do an all-day sort of timeout, culture building, teamwork experience. And we wanted to try one that was fully remote and an all-day experience. And so I reached out to my network and I said, hey, what ideas do you have here? And people were like, good luck. like the people that I talked to were like, that sounds ambitious and it sounds like it might not work. And so we're going to try it, do the best we can. At the end of that meeting, we had a 17-year team member, veteran. He'd been with the team for 17 years. At the very end, he said, I'd like to say something to the whole group. And we're like, okay. He said, I've been the biggest skeptic about remote work. And today changed my mind completely. I believe that we can connect, that we can collaborate, that we can have fun, that we can be a team because we did this. And that's because even though I had this imposter syndrome about being fully remote and doing it well, testing a new experience with having an all-day connection event, it made a difference for a lot of people. But that one person that made an impact for him really was the most impactful thing for me. So coming full circle back to imposter syndrome is having enjoyment and satisfaction that it's just a test. Let's explore. And if it doesn't go well, that's good learning as well. We now know something else to not do in the future, and we can hone in on what better to do next time. And setting that sights on setting a realistic expectation for whatever it is that's new for you. Like I said, a social experience or producing content, that setting the bar low to begin with is a really easy way to just ease yourself into being comfortable.
I hear that from some of the brightest minds out there. And so, I mean, you're definitely on the absolute. I mean, one of the very first things that I learned from working directly with Alex Mendozian, shout out to you, Alex. I'm sure you're listening. But what was, don't be afraid to fail. But if you're going to fail, fail fast, and then learn from it and move on to something else. And that immediately resonates with me, exactly what you said right there. So I can see how you can make that work for the people that are the skeptics that are saying, this isn't something that I've believed in. So Cory, as we kind of start to wind down a little bit here, I always want to give my guests the floor for a couple minutes to just kind of give us a golden nugget. Reach into your bag of tricks, maybe just something we haven't covered, something you want to go over that we haven't asked any questions about. And just give our audience that little extra that you might want to have the floor for a few minutes.
Sure. Here's what I like to say. And I started off better and just do less better. We are bombarded with ideas and concepts and content. The world and LinkedIn would have you believe that you need every technology that's out there. You need every new system. You need everything that's new and shiny. And a lot about what I talk about and a lot of what my book is about is being simple. I'm very, very simple. And there are ways like having, I like to say there's no silver bullet in leadership. I've looked. There's no silver bullet in leadership. The closest thing I have found, I've already mentioned on this call, and that's effective one-on-ones with your team members. If you are a leader or if you are a direct contributor and have a supervisor, that is the most important relationship, and having regular and effective one-on-ones is the closest thing I have found to a silver bullet, because in those meetings, you can, and I even have these sort of meetings with my spouse because I know how important they are, is having timeouts to just reflect and say, what's going well? What are our goals? How are things going, with each of our kids, in the case of my spouse, or how are things going at work? In that effective one-on-one, there's an assessment tool in my book where people can sort of say, hey, how am I doing about having an agenda? Is it regularly scheduled? How often do I cancel those? Do I gather feedback in those meetings? Do I create space for connection? That is the best gift that I could give to people is if you can focus on having meaningful, regular, effective one-on-ones, and even if it's 30 minutes a month to start, that's where leadership can really happen, because you can delegate, you can celebrate, you can course correct, you can set goals, you can follow up on goals, you can seek input, you can make connections. And I would encourage people to think big and start small. And that's one place where you can do that.
That is absolutely beautiful. I kind of wish my spouse had met you before our divorce. But and that's really on the serious note, though. That is one of the things that we've done well at Leaders Press, I think, and that's so we can speak to that. That's exactly the kind of thing that's made us united and helped us actually be able to. I mean, I have a meeting every single week with our CEO, Lincoln. Every single week, it's just one-on-one. It doesn't even have to go for 10 or 15 minutes. Sometimes we just talk about what we had for dinner last night. But that absolutely. Kind of thing really absolutely works. You're absolutely right, Cory. Well, Cory, how can our audience find more out about you?
Yeah, a couple of ways. So you can go to my website, corysanford.me. Would love to connect with anybody on LinkedIn. LinkedIn right now, linkedin.com/Cory-Sanford. If you just search Cory Sanford, you'll see a very goofy picture of me. And there's a couple of Cory Sanfords out there. I'm the goofiest looking one. So it's easy to tell.
He's not lying. When I was doing my due diligence before we went to one of our authors,
yeah, I'd love to connect on LinkedIn, and I don't have links yet for to pre-order or order my book, but those will be on my website and on LinkedIn as soon as those are available. So those are a couple of great places to connect with me.
Fantastic. And to save you time, ladies and gentlemen, those links will be down below. Cory, it seems like we've been here 5 minutes and it's been over 30. And I tell you, that's always a great sign of a good interview. It was a real pleasure having you. Your energy is infectious. I feel like I'm going to need to dance around for about 20 minutes afterwards to come down.
I appreciate you having me, Andrew. Thank you very much. It's an absolute privilege.
All right. Take care, man.